Today is May 15th, 2018, and I call to order the Board of Directors for Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1. We do have a quorum. We are missing Director Jim Thomas. The citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for the citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not it is posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any presentations made to the board at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The board will hear presentations on specific agenda items prior to the board addressing those items. You may speak up to 3 minutes or the time limit determined by the president or presiding officers. Do I have any citizens' comments?
No.
Okay, that makes it easy. Next one is consent agenda. All matters listed as consent agendas are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Consent agenda 1, consider and take appropriate action to approve the consent agenda. A, April 2018 check register. B, April 17th, 2018 regular meeting minutes. And C, May 3rd, 2018 special meeting minutes. Do I have any requests to remove any of these? Anyone? I see none. Okay. By show of hands, all in favor of approving the consent agenda items A, B, and C? Show of hands?
Motion?
Motion.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah.
motion.
Okay. Did you make a
Or
motion?
second. We'll call your that a
Okay.
motion, and I'll
Yeah.
second it.
Okay. Motion by myself, second by Director Rose. Secretary Treasurer Rose. Okay. Regular session. We're moving to regular session. 2, consider and take appropriate action to administer the oath of the office, statement of officers, execute bonds, and take other such actions as necessary for directors to qualify for office. Before I do that, I want to recognize one person that you never see. He's in his back room. Can you come out? Again? Yeah. This is the person you never see. He videotapes all the meetings and gets all the great shots of the directors and general manager. So I just want to say thank you very much for all the years you've done. Hold on a second. Take a picture. Okay. And yeah. Also at this time, Director Hayes and myself will be stepping down, and I will pass the meeting over to Vice President Wilson at this time.
And you guys can hang around through item number 2 and then do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, on item number 2, did you? read
Yeah, I
that?
already read
You
it.
that?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the statement of officer, oath of office, and director bonds. I would like a motion to approve the statement of,
Jim.
If I can interrupt, just
Jim.
before that motion occurs, I'm not sure if the oaths have been administered
No.
yet.
No, I need to do that.
Okay.
George, you wanna-
Yes.
yeah.
So I think if Lori can administer the oaths of office,
Yeah.
then we can
You're quick,
consider
not
that
that
motion.
You have the meeting.
Jim, 18 years. What's
Yeah, I'm gonna
14
drop
years? What's new in 5 minutes?
All right, first there is, there's a statement of officer that you each have, and I'll need your signature on. Sorry, this is a small area. I'm not going
Take
to
like
make you read it.
5 minutes.
Mark Chapman, there's yours.
After the motion.
Kelly, I don't have yours right now. To read and sign.
Can you all stand close to that mic so Miguel can pick it up?
Wait, that's your oath, isn't it? Wait a second, that's not the right one. It's the statement of office right here. And here's one pen. Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
Blue, you need black?
That's not true.
For those who may be curious, every public official needs to execute a statement of elected officer, and that's what they're doing. Then they'll execute the oath of office, and Lori will administer that oath, and then the board will have a motion to confirm that they're qualified to assume the duties of director.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Much are they?
Just so in the years ahead, you can just look at it and remember your name. Come on, yeah, I'm Jim.
Since yesterday.
Jim Thomas is calling.
Kelly,
Right hand
this is Mr. Mark Chapman and Steve
and
Flynn.
repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kelly Chastity,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office
of the office
of Director for Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1
of Director for Trophy Club Municipal District Number 1
of the State of Texas,
of the State of Texas,
and will do the best of my ability,
and will do the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States, so help me God.
of the United States, so help me God.
All right, and I need you all to sign, and I will notarize your signature.
All right.
Congratulations, Steve, Mark, and Kelly, on running a clean, hard-fought campaign.
It was touch and go there for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jerking out on us. Normally, he's the one getting, normally attorney and stuff. Leaving us hanging.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
No.
And you go ahead, shake
You'll be fine.
Which one?
We excused.
They could have really got her.
We have to vote on the motion.
I stayed your
We have to vote on the motion.
I say that on every conference call where they say, say who you are when you want. State your name. State your name.
Yeah. Repeat after me, state your name. Okay, you want to?
Okay. I make a motion to approve the statement of officer oath of the new officers and director boards and to otherwise find that the newly elected directors have qualified for office.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, the motion is offered by Director Wilson, seconded by President Carr. Any questions? Hear none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Let's now go into a short recess at 6:39 p.m.
Want to hand the gavel over to him? The other way around?
Yeah.
One more, that's okay. All right, we go.
Okay.
So the guys who graduated and other guys that are making endorsements. He's swimming with them for the summer. And one of the parents from Minnesota has a freshman this year, and then their son, who's a senior this year, just committed, so they're gonna have 2 kids on a team at Texas from Minnesota.
Okay,
They bought a house down there. So
it is now 6:50. We'll resume the regular session for the Trophy Club Municipal District Number 1. We'll enter back into regular session. Item number 3, Consider and take appropriate action regarding order number 2018-0515, amending 3.02 and 5.01 of the bylaws of the Board of Directors related to the Board of Directors' regular monthly meeting date and annual election of officers. Staff?
I don't know that staff has really any commentary on this. There's two pieces of this, and maybe Tony would be the best person to provide comment.
Yeah, there's two proposed revisions to the bylaws for consideration by the board. The first of which is in section 3.02, and that relates to the timing for the election of officers by the board. The prior bylaws provided that that would occur in June of each year. In large part, that was a function of contested elections and the timing for canvass, and then subsequently qualifying for office. Obviously, in this year, the election was canceled, and the proposed change would clarify that the election of officers would occur before the end of June each year. So if the board so chose to elect officers tonight, obviously we're in the month of May, it has the flexibility to do so. The second proposed change for board consideration is to section 5.01, and that relates to the regular monthly meeting dates of the board. Historically, those have been on the third Tuesday of each month. I understand that that may be a conflict with one of the new directors, and so the proposed change would change that to the third Monday of each month, again, trying to accommodate the schedule of the new directors.
Okay. Well, we have two proposed amendments to the bylaws. Are there any discussion?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve order number 2018-0515, amending section 3.02 and 5.01 of the bylaws of the Board of Directors as they relate to the regular monthly meeting date and annual election of officers.
Do I have a second by anyone?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve order 2018-05, amending section 3.02 and 5.01 of the bylaws of the Board of Directors relating to the regular monthly meeting date and time. The motion was submitted by Secretary Rose and seconded by Director Flynn. Are there any other questions or comments related to the motion?
I want to verify with staff that that Monday works for them.
For us, the real constraint, just from a staff work perspective, is trying to get the financials out from the previous month. So closing out the transactions from the previous month, getting it done, and getting it done in a timely way such that we can get it on the agenda, which requires a certain amount of advance notice. This particular month is the month where it would have been the most constrained, right? So I think had it happened this month, it would have happened on the 15th, and that would have limited us to the 15 days of advance time. So in my discussions with Stephen, our finance manager, that's really the earliest we could have done it. It's a pretty rare occasion when the third Monday happens on the 14th, for example. I mean, that's a pretty rare occasion. But we believe we can work with this date, and do feel like it's the earliest date.
Okay.
We should have it outside of saying that we're only going to post financials 1 month in arrears. I mean, if we wanted to do it in the first week of the month, we could, but you would all be looking at financials a month late. I mean, that would be the reality of it. So that's the primary constraint for the staff.
Okay.
What about you, Tony? Does it create a conflict for you?
No.
Okay. Any other directors? Any conflicts anywhere else? Oh, haven't heard that. If there are no other discussions, all in favor, indicate by raising your hand. None opposed. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 4, consider and take appropriate action. Move this over here. Consider and take appropriate action to elect officers of the Board of Directors.
Mr. Vice President, I have some questions for the attorney. I would like to take this into executive session.
Okay, anybody opposed to taking this item into executive session? Hearing none,
I don't know whether you want to roll to that and do them both, or
say again?
I don't know whether you want to roll to that and do both of them at the same time, or...
Yeah, I would say let's address all executive session items while we're back there rather than coming out.
Good idea.
So pursuant to Section 551-071 of the Texas Open Meeting Act, the board will consult with this attorney in executive session on a matter of which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Open Meeting Act, or to seek advice of the counsel on legal matters involving pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers. A, contractor breach, performance of payment issues related to district's contract with Weber Cadagua Partners for construction of wastewater treatment plants improvements. And B, Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1 versus Arcadia Service LLC in the District Court of Tarrant County, 141 Judicial Court, cause number 141-299-351-18, as well as discussing the action to election of board of directors. We will move into executive session at 6:56 p.m.
I guess we're doing that in my office.
It is now 7:39. We are returning to regular session. There was no final decisions or made during our executive session, so we will go back to our item number 4, consider and take appropriate action to elect officers of the board of directors. Do we have any motions?
Yeah, Greg, I would like to make a motion to nominate, I'm not sure how this works, but for president, yourself, Greg Wilson, to serve in that capacity.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion?
I second.
Nominations do not require seconds.
Okay. All right, we have a nomination for myself to be president. Are any discussion? Hear none? We'll have a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. We have a president. Do we have any other motions? I'll make a motion, nominate Bill Rose for vice president. Is there any discussions there? No? All in favor, raise your right hand, or your hand. Okay. Now we need a secretary treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Director Flynn for Secretary of Treasurer.
Okay, we have a motion for Director Flynn to be secretary treasurer. Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. It is also unanimous. So that item is complete. We will progress to number 5. Consider and take appropriate action regarding district bank signatories, including A, approve resolution number 2018-0515A, designating authorized signers on our Prosperity Bank accounts. B, approve resolution 2018-0515B, designating authorized signers on the Bank of the West accounts. C, resolution number 2018-0515C, designating depository institutions, designating authorized signatories for the distribution of district funds, providing for electronic transfers of district funds, and containing other matters related hereunto. Oh, I'm sorry, we also have D here. Approve resolution 2018-0515D, designating designating authorized signers on the text pool accounts. Let's see. Director Rose,
I have a motion.
please proceed.
I move to approve resolution numbers 2018-0515A, resolution number 2018-0515 Bravo, resolution 2018-0515 Charlie, resolution 2018-0515 Delta.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Rose to approve Resolution 2018-0515 Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. I'll second that motion. So we have a motion by Vice President Rose and seconded by President Wilson. Are there any comments, any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by raising your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 6, consider and take appropriate action on scheduling meeting for orientation of new directors. Staff.
Mr. President, as we had discussed, we've kind of kicked it around and tried to figure out a good time to bring our folks in and really have what's a non-action sort of session with our board to bring them up to speed on both matters legal and directorial, as well as staff-oriented sort of discussions. We've talked to a few of our incoming board members and have looked at the possibility, for example, of just having a session, a non-action item session, say starting at 4 o'clock on the next board meeting day, which I do not have my calendar in front of me, but I want to say it was July 17.
June, you mean?
June.
June 18th?
18. Sorry, I was off by one day. So it would be at 4 o'clock on Monday, the 18th. The first day, we would ask Tony to come in and help with some of the issues that are related to legal. Of course, Tony works out of Austin, and to bring him in on a separate day is an expense to the ratepayers. So we thought if we could just have a work session, like many city councils have, where we just kind of have a pre-meeting where we can go through presentations, have some discussion about the things that are pertinent to new directors, and allow for the opportunity for questions of our council, that would be appropriate. The question is whether or not our new members can be there on that day and whether it would interfere with their work schedules. I'm aware that some of our directors work, and we had also talked about doing a retreat on a weekend day, which I think is certainly viable. The staff is willing to come in and help with that. We have some basic, I'm going to call it MUD 101 type stuff about how do we get our water from Fort Worth, and what are the parameters of that contract, and what are the regulatory parameters that we work under. Those are probably less important than some of the legal and aspects that relate to being a director on our board, which really ought to be in the first work session, in my view. So we felt like if we could get everybody to agree to come in a little bit early on the next board day, we would just schedule a session for a couple hours, bring Tony in a couple hours early, and start with kind of a presentation on the various aspects of your fiduciary and legal responsibilities to the ratepayers and taxpayers of Trophy Club MUD that come from the oath of office you just took. So to kind of work through that and provide a venue for interaction with council and staff as need be.
I'd ask, I guess Bill and Greg, having sat here a number of times, is 2 hours, in your view, sufficient?
Well, I think, and thanks for the question. I think 2 hours is probably a good time to look at legal, but I think we probably would be wise to broaden the discussion off of that into, I would like to see a Saturday session, and probably based on prior experience with council, I'd be looking at something in the neighborhood 4 or 5 hours, maybe do a morning through a lunch, and have more general discussions, visioning, that type thing.
Yeah, from my perspective, I didn't get that.
No.
But I mean, I could definitely see where it's helpful. I I'm willing to come in. We can do 2 hours and then see if there's a additional need to do more. I'm not opposed to doing more, but we can go with the initial couple hours and then kind of make a determination from there whether or not we need to expand that time frame. But I'm not opposed to that idea. Does 2 hours before the next meeting work in everyone's schedule?
I can take off early and come in.
It works for me.
And there's no problem with the old directors attending, I hope.
No.
4:30, June 18th.
4?
4? That's right, 4.
That works for you, Tony. You're going to be the star, you know.
To the extent directors have questions they'd like me to address, feel free to maybe let Carmen know, and that would help me organize my thoughts for the meeting.
And I know that there's a requirement to do the open meetings, open records training, and you've got a certain time frame to do that. I would encourage you to do that prior to the meeting if you haven't done it already.
I'll be sending that out.
Can we get that all in the 2 hours?
No, this is on your own.
On your own,
That's homework.
And it's
Yeah.
about 2 hours.
yeah.
2 hours you won't soon forget. If you can stay awake. Pretty dry.
Okay, do we can make a motion now to approve this change in the meeting time, then we don't have to deal with it at the very end.
Oh, just a work session?
Yeah. if you wanna-
Okay. I move to approve a work session starting at 4:30,
4 PM.
4 PM on prior to our next regular scheduled meeting for the purposes of looking at legal responsibilities and other items as associated with being a MUD director.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice President Rose to schedule a new director orientation to cover legal matters related to new board service by new directors. Do I have a second?
And other items.
Second. Just to be clear, it's on Monday, June 18th, correct?
Yes, on Monday, June 18th, before our next scheduled meeting. That motion was approved by Secretary Flynn. Are there any discussions on the matter? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by raising your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Next item, consider and take appropriate action regarding master service agreement for pipe cleaning with Ace Pipe Cleaning.
Mr. President, this is a backup service, and to some extent, it's fairly limited in its description. Ace Pipe Cleaning is the name of their service, but they provide a wide variety of services. So this contract would allow us, under emergency conditions, to call in a backup Vector truck to, if need be, ask someone to video inspect a pipeline on our behalf if we're unable to do that on our own. So it's really a backup service contract for our purposes. Ace Pipe Cleaning is one of the largest companies that work in this area in America. They do a lot of work here in the DFW area. And our hope was to have a backup service that we could call on if needed, should we have a failure in our Vector truck or just simply run into a situation that required more service than we can do with our own Vector truck.
Okay. Are there any other questions related to this? Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll do this motion, but at the next board meeting, we'll be expecting the other directors to be on
Step
top.
up a little bit?
Step up, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I move to approve the Customer Master Services Agreement TR 0004 with Ace Pipe Cleaning.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice President Rose to approve the master service agreement for pipe cleaning with Ace Pipe Cleaning. Have that. Number TR 004. And it was seconded by Director Castaway. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by raising your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, I just want to make note of the fact that we intend to bring back several other contracts that are really standby emergency service agreements. For example, we'd like to get a couple of electricians under contract so that we can call them out in the middle of the night if we need them. Right now, we've been doing that just on a handshake agreement, but Tony has worked with Lori to kind of create a master standby service agreement for those types of contractors to provide us with services that we really don't have on staff. And so there will be others coming back
Similar to this in the
that
future.
fit into this category. Although ACE has got so many of these agreements, they have their own agreement that we worked through with Tony, and he was okay with what's in their agreement. But the agreement we have with other local electricians and service providers of different kinds is really of our own making, and we'll be bringing some of those back in future board meetings.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, consider and take appropriate action regarding the April 2018 Combined Financials and Variance Report. Item A, Combined Financials. Item B, Combined Variance. We'll give this to Vice President Rose to offer his commentary.
The big picture is our revenue is down a little bit. The bigger picture is that the expenses are down even further. So
It's always a good thing.
So that's a good thing for, it's a good thing. I do have some concern that some of the decreases in expenses may be due to staff manning. And so be looking forward to solving some of that moving forward. But other than that, I didn't find anything of significance other than our generator system that we have out here, which the water superintendent might be able to speak to. We've had some pretty good sized bills on that.
Yes, we've replaced the injection pump twice now. It actually went down again, let's see, yesterday. Had to call somebody out. The thermostat's out on it now. We've put a lot of money, enough money in that we've got a line item in the budget just for that generator. So we are gonna be hopefully looking at maybe bringing back a number to replace that this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Big picture, Bill, from a revenue standpoint. You mentioned the revenues are down with, I would assume, more homes coming on board. Is there any concern about why revenues are down in general?
No, basically, as you look at our operation and you look at water in particular, we're just entering into our water season. So it's normal for the revenue, if you're doing a straight line graph, it's normal for the revenue to be down at this point. We kind of look at water as being a parabolic arch. Sewer revenue, since we went to winter averaging, is pretty stable, and that looks real well. The only variation you're going to get on sewer revenue is based on commercial. So
If it's wet, then our water revenue will be down, and during this time of year, probably 60% of our water sales will occur during the summer months, the hot months. So
yeah. Other than that, I'd move to approve the combined financials and variance report.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice President Rose to approve the 2018 combined financial and variance reports.
I second it.
We have a second by
Chapman.
brain dump. Director Chapman. Any comments, discussions? Haven't seen none. All in favor, indicate by raising your hand. Motion passes unanimously. General Manager Carmen, reports, updates?
In your packet, you can see the general manager report. It's a fairly brief document. There's two things I want to call to your attention, however. They would be attachments that fall in the category of draft change order policy and draft procurement policy. So the change order policy, which we've worked on for several board meetings now, was tabled at our last board meeting, given that it would be something that would be executed on by the new board as they came in. Staff felt like this was not the appropriate time to bring those for consideration for actual approval. So I've included them for your review within the general manager's report. So they're somewhere in the board packet. You can see the drafts of those two documents: change order policy, procurement policy. I do want to say that we're faced right now with, and I made this interpretation. So
63.
there was a change order that came forward on the Phoenix Drive project. I both reviewed the time that this board directed the staff to bring change orders back to the board, which was a discussion that was had some months ago. In fact, it may have been before I came. I went back and looked at the video. It seems very clear to me that that was specific to change orders associated with the Weber-Cadagua contract at the wastewater plant, and not intended to be a general statement of every change order needs to come back to the board of directors, based on my review. Furthermore, since we have not approved an updated procurement policy, I based my decision to approve the budgeted change order on Phoenix Drive, which involved the following. Many of the homes on Phoenix Drive, which is a joint project with the town, had one service line off of the main that fed 2 meters. That is not part of our standard, and it was something that was not discovered until the contractor dug them up. We made the decision in the field, as we have done, and Mike can attest to this, historically, to work within the budgeted change order contingency to approve the replacement of those individual service lines with 2 service lines. The total of that came to about $10,800. It was within what we had budgeted for contingency. And whether y'all like it or not, I made the decision to go ahead and do that. And I based it both on my review of the video from when the discussion was had around change orders vis-a-vis Weber-Cadagua and the challenges on the wastewater plant project, and our old procurement policy, which allows the general manager to expend up to $25,000 for anything that's in the budget. So I approved that. They went ahead and did it. I mean, that work is long done. But I wanted you to know that, that would be affected by this change order policy that we'd like you all to consider. And we're going to bring it back for debate and discussion at the next board meeting. But that's a perfect example of what the staff, feels like it's an important latitude for us to have. We need to be able to make those decisions and not call an emergency meeting of the board to approve something as simple as that. We did not know that we had all those services where it's one service line serving 2 homes. That's not the standard in most of Trophy Club. We have one service line, 1 home. And so we fixed that. It was a time and materials basis contract with the contractor there. They've done a good job, as near as I can tell. And so it was a set price already. It wasn't that big a deal, but we directed them to proceed rather than holding them up and waiting for a board decision on that. So we anticipate bringing back at your next board meeting in June the change order policy that we worked with President Wilson on, as well as the procurement policy that has been in front of the board. It's been a few months now since that got tabled, but it has been brought forward for consideration before. So we encourage you all to take a look at that and develop any questions you might have about it, and we'll bring that back at the next board meeting.
Carmen, oh,
I was going to say, I didn't find the procurement,
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't see the procurement policy in the packet.
That would be my.
we can, we can you can send it back out
Yeah,
by
if you
email.
No, I
Send it out.
I thought it was there, so I see it on her agenda, and it's not on mine. So maybe it's my mistake.
Yeah.
I
If,
thought- I
if you
thought-
want to just send it out,
We'd put it in, and the last time we had it in front of the board, Bill had sent in his comments kind of late in the process, so I got them a few days before the board meeting, and I asked that it be tabled, and I want to say that's 3 board meetings ago, or maybe
Yeah.
more.
That's okay, just, if you just want to send it back
Yeah.
out again, that'd be
We
fine.
will do that.
so
I-
Carmen, a question.
Go ahead.
we done?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so on B, under, I'm reading the guidelines here, Section 2, Point B, the general manager may approve change orders in an amount that, when aggregated with all other change orders approved by the general manager, does not exceed $50,000. So I understand the verbiage, that's over the life of whatever that contract is. So for example, the wastewater plant treatment, with that upgrade, that's been going on for a long time. So there are no guidelines, it's just $50,000, period.
I believe that has some things to do with state code, right? So we've been working with attorney on that, and there's elements of that, and then there's also limits that's just placed on me by the board. But beyond that, you could take into consideration the road projects we're doing with the town. So we're doing water improvements, we're doing that, then they're putting in new pavement and sidewalk. Within that budget, there's a budgeted contingency, and it's like, so our intent is to work within that. Relative to the wastewater plant, we had an initial delay that was related to the platting of the wastewater plant site. And that caused what they call a drop tools charge that effectively ate the entire contingency on the wastewater plant budget. So there really is no change order contingency on the wastewater plant. And I believe that's why that came back to the board before I arrived here. But, the intent of this policy is that when we bring forward a capital project that will have some contingency for change orders, that's reasonable and pretty common with respect to those kind of capital projects. There's things that you don't know about until you start digging a hole, and then you find out, wow, we didn't anticipate that. So the limits that are in there are, Tony can probably speak to those in terms of how they fit up with state law. But our intent was really just to bring them to your attention on this agenda, and then bring it back for a discussion and any modifications you all want to make, and hopefully approval at the next board meeting. That's our intention.
And the $50,000 is based on a statute in the water code which specifies the maximum amount of change order authority that can be delegated to an individual. And so we just wanted to make sure that statutory limit was reflected in the resolution.
And the other piece is 10% of the project. When we do projects, we normally build in a contingency. So therefore, that approval can never exceed the contingency, so it can never exceed the entire budget of the project. So just that additional clarification. So the general manager would never be in a position, if we budgeted $1 million for a project and 50,000 of that was, or 40,000 was part of the contingency, then that limit would be limited to $40,000, not 50, because it can never exceed the total value of that project. Hopefully that makes sense, what I just said. Any other items you'd like to cover?
No, sir, that was my hope was just to bring that to your attention and ask you all to do your homework, read through those policies, and then if you have any questions that you'd like to have addressed, that come up while you're reviewing it, please send them to me, and staff and council will be much more prepared to answer those questions and hopefully get them to the place where we can get them approved and give the staff better tools with which to actually spend money on behalf of the district.
I have a
President
question
Rhodes.
on one of the items at the very end, talking about the water project on Phoenix, if I can get this page to settle down. Joint projects with the town. You say that the contractor cannot move over to begin work on Indian Creek until Phoenix Drive is paved and complete. My understanding from the joint meeting is that they were going to move the water part of that project forward while they were doing the construction phase on Phoenix. Construction meaning road construction.
I believe that's not the case.
Did
Yeah.
that change?
Yeah, through the joint meeting, the town does not like the contractor to go ahead and jump over to the next phase. They like for them to concentrate, just on the first phase and get that done before they move to the second phase. That way they don't have two spots tore up at one time, and
Okay.
it may be 6 months before they actually move over to start paving on Indian Creek. and
Okay,
it'd be torn for that
so
long.
it's phased,
It's phased.
not an overlapping phase project, but a first phase, second phase.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Jim
Good.
Manager, Carmen? Staff, any others? Have any? Okay, we've covered our executive session item. Items for future agenda. There's been a couple of mentioned by General Manager Carmen. Are there any other items for future agenda that we want to make staff aware of now?
Was the 811 going to be on the next meeting?
I believe I will be bringing that back for approval. There's actually not even a contract to enter into for that. You can just sign up, but what you have to give them is a GIS shapefile. So I anticipate that will come forward. Whether it requires approval or not is not even clear to me.
Do we have a GIS shape file?
We may not. We may not.
I thought that was part of the discussion that we've had
Right.
about bringing things into the
We've had
21st
discussion
century.
about getting GIS on next year's budget. I know you and I have had that discussion. And I feel like it's an important part of our asset management program. I mean, this is a foundational element. It may require us to go forward and say, we'll take our map files, which are in CAD, and convert at least the boundary into a GIS shapefile, which should be a couple $100 at most.
Okay,
And then give it to us, and then we could go forward with the 811. But that is definitely coming forward either as a reporting item or as an approval item on the next agenda.
thank you.
Any other future agenda items? Let's see, item 14, set future meeting dates. I think our next meeting date is scheduled for June 18th at 4 p.m. to accommodate the new director's orientation.
I thought it was,
Is it June 18th?
June 18th, that's what I had, yeah.
that's the Monday.
Right.
It's a Monday.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Okay, anything else?
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn.
We have a second?
Second?
Huh?
Look at,
We have a motion to adjourn by Vice President Rose and seconded by Director Castaway. We will adjourn Trophy Club Mud One at 8:11 p.m.
well, try, we'll try to let us know.